It's time to get out of pocket. Guys, we are back on Boom Broadcasting. It's Out of Pocket with Michael Davis. Thank you so much for bearing with us after a busy week. Haven't been able to do a show this week, but we are at a special start time of 2 p.m. Eastern time for the NBA trade deadline. We have a lot of stuff going on. We will have a ticker at the bottom keeping you updated on every big move in the NBA, and we're going to be breaking down all the moves we've missed over the last few days and ones that are coming in over the next hour. The NBA trade deadline ends at 3 p.m. Eastern time, so we decide to go an hour live before to cover everything, and then we'll be on as long as it takes towards the end of the show. But I won't be joined alone, at least for a part of the show, because I'm bringing in the host of Lombardi Party. He's also a big basketball fanatic. We're bringing in Carson Williams onto the show. And, dude, I do not know where to begin. Your Cavs have made some big moves today, but I'd be remiss if we didn't start out with what dominated three from deep earlier this week. We got Luka Doncic traded to the Dallas Mavericks in probably, dude, the biggest deal of our lifetimes. Dude, what was your reaction to the Lakers actually landing Luka Doncic? Because you can't even make this move in 2K.
No, I think I tried to make it and I had to do trade override because that's how ridiculous this is. I mean, it is. I was completely in shock. It's completely unprecedented. We've never seen a star like this traded in the middle of the season that didn't want to be traded, didn't know about the trade, there was no even clues about it. Nobody on the Lakers knew about it. It's just completely unprecedented. And for the Lakers, I mean, I think it's a great move. You just got Luka Doncic, which is unquestionably the future of your franchise, because that's the question everybody was asking. What's happening after LeBron retires? I mean, is it just going to be AD and Reeves and like who's going to float the ship? Because if so, you're missing the playoffs every year, and it just wouldn't be good. And now you have the unquestionable future of your franchise, and you don't give up any of your major assets. You hold on to Reeves. You hold on to connect, who just ended up being a big trade piece for them, and what I thought was, again, a home run trade. So you can say whatever you want about the Luka and LeBron fit. I've seen some things about that, and I've warmed up to it. I think the offense will be really fun with those two, with Luka taking more of a on-ball role and LeBron just being more of a cutter, and which he's shown in his older years to do pretty well at. He's a better spot-up shooter. It's not a win-now move, though. They're still not title contenders. This is 100% for the future. The Luka and LeBron fit doesn't matter because LeBron is gone in 2 years at most.
Yeah, and we'll get Carson back in here. What a take right there. With Luka Doncic, the Los Angeles Lakers have obviously blew up the team that won the championship back in the bubble, and it's been absolutely terrible. But we'll get Carson back in here.
Sorry, not sure what happened. It just kicked me out there for a second.
Dude, I mean, who knows? You might have been traded right there, whether you liked it or not.
I'm about to get a phone call.
You might have been getting a phone call. We'll keep everybody updated, as well as showing you some big trade updates here at the bottom of the screen as we're live. Carson mentioned Mark Williams also coming over to the Los Angeles Lakers, and now what the team looks like is Luka Doncic, Austin Reeves, Rui Hachimura, LeBron James, and Mark Williams. You got guys like Gabe Vincent off the bench, Dorian Finney-Smith, who was a former teammate of Luka Doncic, Jackson Hayes, Jared Vanderbilt as well. And then Bronny James obviously sitting next to LeBron on the bench, whether he's playing or not. It was so funny, dude. I saw a video where Bronny was sitting next to his dad, and Anthony Davis made Bronny get up so he could sit next to LeBron. And next thing you know, he's traded.
There he goes.
But apparently LeBron didn't even know this was happening.
It seriously is so unprecedented to just have no clues, no hints, like no news, no anything. It was really just Nico Harrison and Rob Pelinka just duking it out, and we know who won. It was, I mean, for the Mavs, I hate this move. I really hate it. Look, it's a win now move, I guess. I think they still got worse because I think that Luka is just a better player, hands down, than Anthony Davis. But Luka just took the team to the finals. As well, I thought they were the third or maybe the fourth best team. I thought the Nuggets were better than them. I thought the Timberwolves were better than them, and I thought the Thunder were at least on par with them. And he averaged 38 and 9 on elite efficiency. And he's 25 years old. He is not in his prime yet, dude. Anthony Davis is almost 33. He's reliably unreliable. We know that he's not going to play a full season anymore. And he hasn't been the same since the 2020 run. I got the numbers here. He averaged 27.5 points, 9.5 rebounds on 57% shooting, and 38 from the three. Since then, he's averaged 22.6 points in the playoffs. Last year he had a good run, but that 3-point percentage has just never risen to those heights again. He's just not a good 3-point shooter, and that was just clearly like a heater for him. But he's not a good 3-point shooter. So then you plug him into the Mavs with two more non-shooting bigs in Lively and Gafford, and then on the perimeter you have two legitimate creators, Kyrie and Dinwiddie, and neither of them are the playmaker that Luka was. So neither of them are going to be able to take advantage of the defense collapsing on them like they will. Kyrie's going to be getting double and triple teamed every night on the perimeter, and he won't be able to capitalize on these 3-and-D guys. You know, the defense will be better, and I have no doubt about that. It's going to be a really, really good defense. At any point, you have at least 1 to 2 really, really good interior defenders on your team on the floor. So it's going to be a good defense, but the spacing will be awful. The offense is just going to be – it's going to grind to a halt the same way that Minnesota's offense does at times. It will grind to a halt multiple times in multiple games. And the chemistry is messed up. And you just took this – and this team just went to the finals. Like, you don't give that away for nothing. They have no future assets. All of the picks they have are either somebody else's or they're not very good. They got a 2029 from the Lakers, and that 2029 pick will not be good. It won't be good. It will be mid at best because the Lakers have Luka Doncic on their team now. I mean, like, it's just a complete catastrophe for the Mavericks. And to top it all off, you could have gone to the Rockets and you could have got 5 or 6 firsts and a really, really good Torrey Eason. Like, you could have got really, really good assets from a team, and instead you get 32-year-old paper mache man. Like, that is not what we want. That is not what you want if you're an organization. They're just going to tank. They're just going to go downhill from here, and it's going to be sad. I feel bad for Mavericks fans, and if you want to jump ship, I would not blame you after that.
Well, and it's interesting you mentioned jumping ship because apparently the Mavericks are offering refunds to people for the remainder of their season tickets for home games because of the Luka Doncic trade. I mean, if you look outside the arena, like, and I don't want to make light of, a former Laker of Kobe Bryant, like, I haven't seen anyone react like that since, Kobe's passing. Like, they're out there, like, throwing jerseys onto the ground. Like, they're like, crying in front of the arena. They're doing this whole casket, bit with Luka Doncic. I mean, it's thankfully like distracted people from Jerry Jones and, his stuff in the front office. But dude, this is monumental because Luka Doncic might be the next great Laker. I mean, obviously he has to resign, and that's the hard thing. Like Luka didn't want to leave Dallas. Like Luka was
No.
about to sign his supermax contract. Luka had also bought a home in Dallas to where like he found his home. And Jason, the host of Three from Deep, he does an NBA podcast 3 times a week now. He says this will haunt Dallas for years.
Yeah.
I totally agree because no matter what happens in Dallas, and we're going to talk about that here in just a second, no matter what happens to Dallas, I mean, they just lost their centerpiece of a franchise for the next 10, 12 years.
Mm-hmm. And I'm pretty confident in saying that it will go down as the worst move in Mavericks history. I mean, I am very, very confident in saying that. It just makes no sense. It makes you feel like when I saw it for the first time, obviously I, like everybody else, thought it was fake. And then it got confirmed, and my first thought was he has to be injured. Like he has yeah, Jason's not forgetting about it. But I just thought like he's got to have some sort of lingering injury like Isaiah Thomas did that isn't being reported on correctly, and they're moving off of him. But I mean, it's hard to do that because now with the rules, like all injuries have to be updated and reported before a trade. And so then you think like, was it organizationally like did did Luka have something over Nico Harrison? Like, was he messing around with his family? Like, what's going on? You know, there's no justification that has come out that makes any sort of sense of it. It really makes I don't understand it. You don't understand it. Nobody here understands it. Kendrick Perkins apparently thinks he understands it, but he doesn't. I mean, it makes no sense. It makes zero sense for the Mavericks, and it makes all the sense for the Lakers. And good on the Lakers for going out and getting Luka. And you're right, he does have to sign the extension, and apparently he's not eligible anymore after being traded for that Supermax extension, but I kind of think he's going to stay with the Lakers. I mean, if you can at least start building the roster around him now, I think you have good pieces. Austin Reeves is a good piece. Mark Williams, if he can stay healthy, is a really good piece. And that is going to be – because he's got a 9'9" reach. He's got a taller standing reach than Wemby. So – I mean, that's going to be really, really deadly with Luka, who loves his lob threats. I mean, that's why Lively was thriving in the playoffs last year because Luka was just making him like an incredible lob threat. So that could be a really, really good piece if he can stay healthy. But obviously, they've got more moves because LeBron's out the door, and Rui could be a good piece, I guess. Luka can make anybody look good is the thing.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he took Dwight Powell and a bunch of non-shooters to be like a top 3, top 2, maybe the number 1 offense his second year. So he's going to make anybody around him look good. I have no question that this is going to be an incredible, incredible move for the Lakers.
Yeah, and Drew Code Sports Talk, Cody's a big Lakers fan. He's like, go Lakers. He was ecstatic about this move. He wasn't ecstatic about, giving up Dalton Connect, but we're going to cover that too because we got Carson on a little time crunch. And so we're going to come back to the Lakers here in a few moments. Elizabeth also joined us in the comments. Butler finally got traded. Yes, he did. I'm not wearing anything Jimmy Butler. It is Tyler Hero time.
Nice.
I'm super excited to talk about that too. Because not only did my team make a move, but Carson, yours did as well.
Yep.
The Cleveland Cavaliers, minutes before we went on air, I had already prepared to ask you if, hey, what you want the Cavs to do? Will they make any moves? They have made the moves. The Cleveland Cavaliers going out and getting DeAndre Hunter and sending picks to Atlanta, sending Karis LeVert, sending Nong, 3 second-round picks, 2 swaps. Hunter in the middle of a career year with points, 3-point attempts, 3-point percentage, He's been pretty good for Atlanta this year. Dude, I think you might have gotten a big steal.
Oh, I think it was an absolute steal. I mean, and you said it right there. He's 19 points per game, 39% from three, 62% true shooting percentage is just elite efficiency. And he is immediately this team's best perimeter defender. It was exactly what the Cavs needed. They got, and they gave away really nothing. Karis LeVert, who has been a lot better this year, and I love Karis LeVert, and I love all the things that he's done for Cleveland, but he's just kind of inconsistent. He's been our most inconsistent player for probably 3 years now. And specifically against the Celtics, who this is kind of how I'm grading this trade. How does this help us against the Celtics? I'm not worried about the Knicks. I mean, really, the Celtics are the only obstacle in Cleveland's path to get to the finals. Not to win it, but to get to it. And this is a ginormous help. Karis LeVert, George Niang, both historically bad against the Celtics because they just can't create their own advantages. Karis LeVert is not. He makes people think that he is he's a good handler, a good advantage creator. He's really not. He just does a lot of moves, like a lot of through the legs and behind the backs, but he's really not that great of a perimeter creator. And George Niang, he's only there to catch the ball and shoot a three. He holds no value anywhere else on the floor. Now you get somebody who's a better 3-point shooter than both of them. Probably not a better advantage creator than LeVert, but he's still 6'8", like he can shoot over guys. He's going to be better offensively in the Celtics series than a Karis LeVert would. And then defensively, which is really where the value of this trade is coming in, because offensively the Cavs are pretty well set, but defensively this is a home run because now you go up against the Celtics, and I just like the matchups a lot better now. Before you were putting like a Max Strus on a Jaylen Brown, or a Karis LeVert on a Jaylen Brown, or you get Ty Jerome in there, and now you put him on Drew Holiday or Derek White, and now you're putting Donovan Mitchell on Jaylen Brown. You don't like any of those. Now you have the guy who you put on Jason Tatum even or Jaylen Brown. And then you put Evan Mobley on the other one because Evan Mobley is an incredible perimeter defender, probably the best big man perimeter defender in the league other than maybe Bam. But it's close. But he's a better interior defender than Bam. So you put him on a Jason Tatum, you put DeAndre Hunter on a Jaylen Brown, and then you put Jared Allen on Tingus Pingus. And you've got it covered because Derek White doesn't require that much defensive attention. Drew Holiday doesn't require that much defensive attention. Nobody really on their bench requires that much defensive attention. Right now, if you put these teams, I mean, obviously you want DeAndre Hunter to learn the system, but he's also just perfect for our system. He's a good off-ball mover. And all he has to do is stand there and catch the threes and catch the ball and shoot the three. So he's perfect for the system. Once he learns it, he'll be incredible within it. And I really just, if these two go up against the playoffs at this point, fully healthy, because before I was saying you would have to get a major injury from one of the Celtics players if these Cavs genuinely want to go to the finals. That's where I was at. Now, fully healthy, you put these two teams up against each other, and I think it goes 7 games, and I think it's close, every single one of them. And I think it could go either way. So it just changes the landscape of this team completely, just completely turns it on its head. And you don't give up a first-round pick. I saw people saying Max Strus, a first-round pick, and Ty Jerome for DeAndre Hunter, and I was like, that's too much. You're losing too much 3-point shooting. You're losing too much creation. This is perfect. 3 second-round picks is what you're giving up, along with Karis LeVert and George Niang. And then they said 2 pick swaps, but they haven't really elaborated on that, so we'll see what that is. but I just think it's a home run. I think it's a complete steal, and I think it. I, to me, it was the Thunder and the Celtics on the same tier, and then a little below them was the Cavs. Now I'm putting the Cavs up there with the best of them. I mean, there is no gap to me.
Well, I mean, and even the Cavs have done a really great job in like having a really strong regular season. They're atop the East by 5 games next to the Celtics. The Knicks are coming in the third place, and then it's like it feels like everybody else is in that tier of like Indiana, Milwaukee. You know, who knows? They made a couple deals. Miami also. We're seeing comments in here. Matt Cosgrove, have to give him credit. He said, "Did I miss the Jimmy Butler conversation?" No, you have not. I do want to give Matt credit. He did call it about a year ago that Jimmy Butler was getting dealt before the All-Star break. So congrats, Matt. You got it. It got a lot uglier than I thought it was going to, but we will cover Jimmy Butler in depth. But dude, when we're talking about this Cleveland team and the deal they just made, you obviously you have to get everything in order. Like, you have to make sure that you can, compete with your other teams in your conference. And Boston is that team. Like, it looked like Boston overpowered teams like with Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Kristaps Porzingis. And you did have contributions from Derek White, Drew Holiday, that it really was just too much for Eastern Conference teams. But Cleveland, I feel like this move was, hey, let's compete now, because Kerry LeVert's contract was ending after the year. Now they have DeAndre Hunter for a couple years. Do you think they like what Hunter adds to this team right now this year to win it all versus doing free agency next year?
I do, because even if he doesn't immediately fit into the scheme, which I think he will because he's the perfect player for it, it's like the scheme is kind of built for that kind of player. But even if he doesn't immediately fit in, he's still an incredible defensive perimeter defender, and there's no scheme for that. You just got to go out there and compete, and he's going to do that. So it does add immediate value. I mean, the next game they play, the Cavs will be better. The very next game. And the game after that, the Cavs will be better. And by the end of the season, the Cavs are going to be a hell of a lot better because they're just going to have it all in place. They're going to have the pieces, but they're also going to, like, the pieces are going to know what to do, you can have everything you need, but if they don't know the scheme, or if the coach isn't good, or if the scheme isn't good, like, then nothing is going to happen. But you've got an excellent scheme, an excellent coach. You've got really good, like, minutes, the way that the minutes are kind of set out. They're very dispersed, and so nobody really gets too super winded or super tired, especially like for game stretches. And so, yeah, it does. It just adds immediate value. Even he could go out there tomorrow and he could lay a stinker. He could not make a single three, not get to the free throw line, turn it over, and he will still add immediate value because he's an incredible perimeter defender, and that just doesn't go away. Like, you don't just have bad nights.
Well, dude, Atlanta continuing to make moves. Breaking news coming in from Shams that the Atlanta Hawks sent Bogdanovich and 3 of those second-round draft picks in a deal to acquire Terrence Mann and Bones Highland from the LA Clippers. That news just came across just now.
I don't really understand what Atlanta is doing. I mean, you have Trae Young. You need to put, like, really good shooters around him. Bogdanovich was another good shooter, a big body, just like DeAndre Hunter. I mean, are they just tanking? Is that the move at this point? Are they just? I mean, you just traded 3 second-round draft picks, so are they just tanking away? Because I don't see any real value in this move. I mean, I do like Bones Highland. I like his defensive effort, but it just doesn't make any sense to me what they're doing right now.
Well, and especially with that Cavaliers trade, I mean, those second-round picks basically just canceled it out. So you shipped off Bogdanovich and DeAndre Hunter for Terrence Mann, Bones Highland, and Kerry LeVert, pretty much.
And George Yang.
Yeah,
But
same.
right, I mean, none of those guys are really great shooters other than George Niang, and he's an okay shooter. He's not even a great shooter. So you're kind of just wasting away Trey Young. It sounds to me like they're tanking. But if they're going to tank, they need to trade Trey Young. I mean, his baseline is pretty well. He's a pretty awesome offensive engine. While he's on the floor, the Hawks have been a good offense, and they really have nobody around them. I mean, especially now that Jalen Johnson's been hurt, I don't really get it. I mean, if you're tanking, you're just not doing it successfully. And if you're trying to win, you're really not doing it successfully. I mean, they're kind of just putting themselves in I don't know, like just like the middle ground, like not good enough for a great draft pick, not good enough to make noise in the playoffs. That's the reason the Hawks have been in the play-in every year. They don't put anybody around Trey Young, but Trey Young is good enough to drag this offense to being decent. And that's what he's going to keep doing. If you're trying to tank, you got to get him off your team.
Yeah, and we'll see. I don't know if we could see Trey Young be traded here in the next hour. That would be crazy, especially with Luka Doncic being traded. But I guess in hindsight, I guess the Hawks won the trade because the Mavs don't have Luka Doncic anymore.
Yeah, they won the trade, I guess. I mean, the Mavs did make it to the finals at least, but they won the trade because he's not there anymore. I mean, it was basically Trey Young for AD and Max Christie at this point. So yeah, I mean, I'd take Trey for sure.
Yeah, he'll take Trey Young on the Atlanta Hawks. They're making moves, as we mentioned just a couple minutes ago. The Clippers trading Terrence Mann, Bones Highland to Atlanta for Bogdanovich and 3 second-round draft picks. In addition, the Hawks have sent DeAndre Hunter to the Cleveland Cavaliers. Carson, before we let you get out of here, I know we talked about your Cleveland Cavaliers making moves. We talked about Luka Doncic to the Lakers. Is there anything pressing on your mind in terms of this NBA trade deadline? Do you expect any other names moved? Is there any trade that you're like, wow, this really elevated a team to a contender?
Well, this has just been an insane trade deadline, and nothing has really been predictable. I did not guess Luka to the Lakers. I did not guess Jimmy to the Warriors. I did guess Fox to the Spurs. That's the one thing, and that's a really, really good move to me for the Spurs because it just makes Wemby's life so much easier. I mean, he's been playing with no real offensive creators, no real star guards, and now you just put Fox in there, who's a good enough playmaker. It is just a match made in heaven, to be honest, because Wemby's good at running the floor, and the only thing is Fox isn't a great perimeter shooter. He's not a great 3-point shooter, but that could honestly be offset with Wemby's 3-point shooting. I mean, Wemby is shooting big, so the spacing is not going to be weird. And I mean, now Wemby's just going to be able to catch lob after lob after lob after lob. I mean, it's just going to be ridiculous, dude. It is going to be offensive heaven for him.
Dude, it's kind of crazy, like looking at the San Antonio Spurs 2 years ago before Victor Wembanyama came to the team. And then they draft Victor Wembanyama, and you're like, okay, he's a generational talent, but there's literally no one else around him. And then all of a sudden, you look at this team, and they've been able to lure Harrison Barnes over, who is a good veteran forward. You bring in Chris Paul towards the end of his career, helping develop Victor Wembanyama, and then you go out and you don't have to give up anything, really, because guess what? You have Zach LaVine added into the deal from Chicago to supplement Sacramento, and then you basically get De'Aaron Fox, not for free, but it felt pretty close to free. I mean, dude, all of a sudden you got Paul Fox, Devin Vassell, Stephon Castle as well, Harrison Barnes, and Victor Wembanyama. This team looks a lot better sitting at 22 and 26 moving into the future.
Oh, yeah. They could make the play-in. Genuinely, they could make the play-in at this point. And you're right. They didn't give up any of their future assets. So they still have a ton of picks. And they still have a ton of trade assets. Devin Vassell, as you said, Stephon Castle, who I really like. I hope they don't trade, but he could be a trade asset if they needed to. I mean, at this point, Wemby is the only untouchable player on your team. Even Fox, if you can get somebody better than Fox, if you could get Trae Young instead of De'Aaron Fox, I'm doing that in a heartbeat. Not even thinking about it. Because Trae Young is a much better three-point shooter. He's a better playmaker, in my opinion. He's just not as good defensively, and Fox isn't even a great perimeter defender, and he's not as quick. But I would much rather have Trae Young. So if you're the Spurs, you are building around Wemby. That is your one priority. That is the only thing you're even thinking about. And you trade away anybody else. You ship them off because it doesn't matter. You have Wembanyama, who could be the GOAT. Legitimately, at the rate he's going at, could be the greatest of all time. And probably will be the best defender of all time. I mean, the ceiling for this guy, as long as he doesn't get hurt, which still worries me as a 7'4" guy that skinny, still worries me, but he right now is on pace. He's on pace.
And Victor Wembanyama, obviously a generational talent. We'll see. We'll see what happens there. San Antonio getting De'Aaron Fox, and we'll continue to break these moves down as we're about 27 minutes away from the NBA trade deadline. I'm constantly refreshing all my browsers. Make sure we don't miss any breaking news here at the NBA trade deadline. But Carson, I know you got to get going. I appreciate you joining us, my friend.
I do want to say real quick, I just saw something that linked Paul George to the Hawks. Not saying that he's there, but just saying that they've been talking about him. So if you're getting Paul George, this might all make sense because Paul George is I think that you still need another player, but Paul George is pretty, he'll be pretty good by Trae Young, in my opinion.
Wow. Paul George potentially to Atlanta. The Hawks might be trying to acquire him.
Potentially. He's been linked there.
Dude, the amount of times Paul George has just bounced around and bounced around and bounced around. I mean, this isn't Indiana Paul George by any means, but dude, that could open up stuff because you have Jared McCain, who will come back from injury next year. You already have Tyrese Maxey, Joel Embiid, seeing what you could potentially get for Paul George.
Yeah, it could open a lot up for. The only thing is Paul George's contract is really bad right now. And I don't know if I'm the Hawks, if I would really want to take on that contract. And if I do, I'm not giving too much up, especially not draft capital. So we'll see what happens, but it would be a good fit at the very least.
Yeah, and Paul George, he's under contract over the next 2 years with a player option when he's 37 years old for a grand whopping $56 million.
At 37 years old? Holy cow.
Dude.
That's worse than Butler.
Oh, that is worse than Butler. I'm glad you mentioned that because I'll be ranting on the Jimmy Butler situation here in a few moments.
All right. Well, I'm out of here, man.
Hey, appreciate you, Carson, so much. Thank you. Guys, talked about the Luka trade, talk about the Cavaliers acquiring DeAndre Hunter. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, let's go ahead and talk Jimmy Butler to the Golden State Warriors. Hey there, everyone. Michael Davis, Boom Broadcasting. I wanted to take this quick moment to say thank you for watching Boom Broadcasting. Your support is much appreciated and it's much needed. If you are a first-time watcher, please hit that subscribe button, like, and share this. That way we can get this out to everyone and be a great source for entertainment and enjoyment. Thank you so much. Well, guys, welcome back to Outta Pocket. I appreciate you guys watching us for the first 30 minutes. We had Carson Williams join us. We might have another surprise or two on the way. You'll just have to stay tuned as we continue to count down for the NBA trade deadline. Now, I do want to say a quick thank you to everybody who's reached out over the last few days. Had some stuff happening here at the house. Everyone's okay. Everyone's, doing well, but appreciate you guys letting me take a few days to tend to my family and care for them. That'll also mean maybe potentially some other shows getting moved around in terms of Outta Pocket, Drop the Mic, Man Behind the Mic, Dad and the Boys, Starstruck. But appreciate you guys bearing with me and appreciate you guys watching Boom Broadcasting and watching Outta Pocket live as we break down the NBA trade deadline. And now I do have a, surprise guest here for you. We just had Carson here on the show, but joining me as well, and I don't even know if I'm ready to talk about this Jimmy Butler drama. So saving the day is you saw him in the comment section here in a few moments ago. We got the guy from Drew Code Sports Talk, a good friend of the channel, a good friend of myself too. We got Mr. Cody Johnson here on the show. Cody, excited to have you on, my friend.
Thanks, man. Thanks for sending me the email. I'm sorry I'm a bit late, but I'm here, man. How's it going?
Dude, it's going pretty good. Are you going to make me talk about this Jimmy Butler drama right now, or are you going to...
I was going to put you on the spot. You got a minute to talk about it?
I do have a minute to talk about it, as much as I don't love Jimmy Butler right now.
Well, is it because you don't love Jimmy Butler, or you don't like what you got back for Jimmy Butler?
It's both intertwined for sure, because of all the drama he's had over the last several weeks. It's probably why we didn't get enough trade for him. By the way, Jason's saying, "What's up, Cody?"
What's up, Jason? Yeah, actually, in a couple of hours, him and I are going to be hitting up a little sneak peek. We got a little collab going on for the trade deadline specials, so stay tuned for that.
No way. So if you guys hear it here, you're enjoying the live NBA trade deadline special, but I believe Cody and Jason are collabing at the very end to make sure they regroup and collect all their thoughts with the NBA trade deadline. That's going to be pretty good, dude. I can't wait for that.
Yeah, actually, funny enough, so I've got my notes for the show that I need to send him right now. So he's probably watching me and like, hey, man, where's the notes you said you were going to send? So trying to hustle and get that done right now.
Nice. Well, you wanted to throw a couple questions my way about the Jimmy Butler saga that's on your mind?
Yeah. So, of course, we saw this, and I texted you last night. So, I mean, this is no real surprise. But I guess I'm like just curious, like, first off, I think Golden State, they had no choice. They needed a superstar. Jimmy Butler probably was the one they were going to get because KD didn't want to go back. So I'm wondering, like, if Jimmy Butler actually played nice, do you guys think you would have found a place that would have fit all parties? Like, he would have been happy where he went. You guys would have got back an adequate trade package. Like, do you think, like, Jimmy kind of screwed himself out of a better situation?
I do. I know he obviously wanted to go to Phoenix. I don't know if the Suns would have ended up dealing Bradley Beal, Yusuf Nurkic, who just got traded to the Charlotte Hornets a few moments ago. I don't know if we could have even gotten Kevin Durant from Phoenix. Now, I don't know if Bradley Beal or Kevin Durant moved the needle in terms of a championship. But no offense, looking at this lineup that we got, we've used our assets from that original deal to go get Davion Mitchell from the Toronto Raptors. He's like a 6 points per game guy. He hasn't had a good year since his rookie year in Sacramento. And we have Andrew Wiggins that he can play both sides of the football, but I mean, I just don't entirely seeing that move the needle with what we needed. I felt like we could have used a really good point guard. Maybe we could have added Terry Rozier into a potential deal. I felt like we could have gotten another big to pair with Khalil Ware and Bam Adebayo. I felt like we could have gotten something, maybe even more draft capital as well. But I mean, dude, looking at all the moves that we've seen at the NBA trade deadline. I mean, Zach LaVine potentially linked to Miami. He goes Sacramento. De'Aaron Fox, really close friends with Bam Adebayo. He's in San Antonio. Chris Middleton. I mean, when Milwaukee was a potential third team party, Middleton's in Washington now, like in a way. Brandon Ingram was apparently on the market and he goes to Toronto. Like, we're talking about all these trades while we're live today on Outta Pocket, but dude, we could have gotten a lot more than just Andrew Wiggins.
I mean, former number 1 overall pick with the Cleveland Cavaliers back in 2014. So we're not going to say that he doesn't have game, but I would agree. Like, the reason why Wiggins did really well with Golden State and helped him win a title is because he was the third option. He wasn't the number 1 guy, which, when he actually, funny enough, was teammates with Jimmy Butler, he struggled being the star on that team because, they wanted him to be the go-to guy, and he's not aggressive in that manner, so I think what's interesting is, like, knowing that Luka was kind of, I don't know if Luka was available up until, this whole thing went down, but it makes me wonder, like, imagine if, Miami came to the table and said, hey, would you guys take Jimmy Butler and some assets? And, would the Mavericks then pull the trigger to get Luka, or to get away Luka, since they, for some reason didn't want him? So it's kind of like, if Jimmy Butler played nice, would it had led him to the Mavs, who would have been probably a pretty good title contender for him? And does that mean you guys would have gotten Luka had Jimmy been, like, on his best behavior? Kind of makes me wonder. I can't imagine that the Lakers had the best package available. I get it, it's AD, but they wanted a guy that was going to bring defense and toughness. And I mean, Jimmy Butler, he does both when he wants to, but I don't know. Just curious.
Dude, that just hurts my soul, even thinking that Luka Doncic, because Luka has even said, like, his 2 favorite cities to visit in the NBA are LA, but number 1 on his list is Miami. That's been well known, well documented. Jason was in the comments saying Wiggins is younger, a good scorer, and has a championship. And Cody, you brought up a really good point, because I mean, with Andrew Wiggins, he's not going to be the number 1 option in Miami. That is reserved. This is Tyler Hero's team now. For anyone, not aware, it's Tyler Hero's team. Bam Adebayo would be the second option, even though he's had a slower year than years past. But you have promising prospects on this team, whether it's Duncan Robinson continuing to evolve his game, Jaime Jaquez Jr., when Jimmy Butler was suspended and Jaquez was starting in place for him, we saw his numbers go up. We saw a more confident Jaquez. And then you got Khalil Ware, the rookie center, finally being allowed to play Bam at the 4, Ware at the 5. And I feel like that's best for Bam Adebayo. And I feel like that's, allowing Ware to come into his own. I mean, who knows? Wiggins, but it feels like Wiggins for a Butler swap isn't good enough. I feel like it would have been better to have Wiggins and this person and that person. But again, Jimmy ruined it for us all.
Well, and again, I think too, if you look on Golden State side, they gave up a lot for Jimmy, in my opinion, and they only signed him to a 2-year extension and got him the pay raise that he was looking for. I think he got like a $4 million, raise, I think, over the next 2 years. So for whatever that's worth, he basically did it for $4 million. But, I think you look at, like, also what Golden State did. They gave up a lot of, like, picks to even get Jimmy. I think, if I'm not mistaken, they even had to get the Knicks involved in some form or fashion, if I'm not mistaken. Or no, so it was, funny enough, I have the notes in front of me. So they had to get Detroit, Utah involved. So there was a lot of, like, picks moving around and stuff. But I just can't imagine that for the Golden State that this was their first go-to, because Golden State needed a superstar, like, in the worst way. And no, not to disrespect Jimmy Butler, but when you hear reports that KD was available again against his own wishes, he made it very clear he didn't want to get traded. But to hear that KD was there, and Golden State kind of doing him a solid by not trading for him, then it makes me wonder, maybe Miami could have gotten KD for Butler if they would have worked all that out. But I don't know. This whole saga with Jimmy Butler is now at a close with Miami. And, I think the last time you and I had talked about it, when news kind of broke that Jimmy wanted out, I had mentioned like Jimmy is kind of known for doing this on teams. And so it's not surprising. It's just like, this is what Jimmy does. He did this in Chicago. He did it in Minnesota. What was the other team he did it in? He did it in Philadelphia. Then he did it in Miami. So it seems like every team he goes to, when he throws a temper tantrum, he gives everyone the silent treatment. They trade him. And I'm sure he's a great player, led you guys to 2 finals, but has no real rings to really demand his attitude. So it's kind of interesting how it all kind of ended. And we'll see what it looks like in Golden State now.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, by the way, breaking news: Dennis Schroeder involved in that Golden State move. He's trying to find his team. Originally it was going to be Miami, and then there was going to be Utah, and now he's moving to Detroit. They're trying to figure all this out right now.
Well, and PJ Tucker has been traded to 3 teams in 5 days. He went from the Clippers to, I think, Utah, and now he's a Raptor, I think.
Well, he was also in Miami.
Yes. Okay, that's what it was.
Second. Dude,
yeah.
PJ Tucker even posted an Instagram story like home sweet home in Miami, and then all of a sudden, nope, you're going to Toronto. The way he left Miami though, to go to Philadelphia and everything, how that all transpired, he kind of deserved it. He kind of deserved it. But Pistons acquiring Dennis Schroeder from the Utah Jazz. Jason commenting, Jimmy getting $121 million extension for 2 years. Crazy. Agent Star overpaid. Golden State got desperate for someone, which that brings up a good question, Cody. Because you could look at, several different places or different players that Golden State could have acquired in a trade. People were talking like, hey, could we see Kevin Durant come back to Golden State? And Kevin Durant's like, no, I don't want to go back. Probably for his legacy. But dude, I heard the wildest things. I heard LeBron and Bronny. I heard Bradley Beal potentially, so on and so forth. Paul George, maybe, who knows? He could be getting dealt. Apparently the Atlanta Hawks have been linked to him. Carson shared that news minutes before he hopped off. Do you think they settled for Jimmy Butler or? Yeah.
And the reason why is because I look at a team like the Warriors, the last thing they want is somebody that has in my opinion, at least from what I'm seeing, I don't think the Warriors want a player that has the attitude that Draymond Green has, and then also does what he does that kind of then puts the team in a situation like, let's be honest, like when Miami was kind of suspending Jimmy, obviously you see their play is not as good as if he's on the court. But then the argument could be made that Jimmy is plummeting not only his stock, but Miami's stock, because he's a valuable asset to some. And for a lot of people, they think that this is all warranted. But in my opinion, like, I don't think that like Butler is better than KD by any stretch of the imagination. And even if, let's say you had, Jimmy Butler and Paul George available, I think a lot of people would side with Paul George just because like there's really nothing, reputation-wise that goes to Paul George like Jimmy Butler. And I think, the Warriors making this deal, they're really kind of crossing their fingers, hoping that their culture will turn around Jimmy in a sense. But I think what's tough is you're getting Jimmy as is, and you're going to now have to pacify him, even with a great organization like Miami. And granted, like maybe they do things a little too old school. They're not really up to speed with how modern NBA is. And, Pat Riley's going to run the organization the way he sees fit. But I also look at the Warriors and like, look, sometimes they have a hard time dealing with Draymond Green, and then they bring in a player like Jimmy Butler that's kind of like in that same mindset, in my opinion. And now you got to figure out, like, when they're both hotheads, how do you cool them off? What do you do? I just feel like Golden State here is kind of throwing a Hail Mary, and I feel like it's probably like a last-ditch effort to make Steph satisfied, but I don't think it does anything more than maybe they win 5 extra games than what they were projected to. Because again, and I text you this, I saw the Lakers and the Warriors game a couple of weeks ago, and Steph had no help. Like, clearly he needed another person. Andrew Wiggins was really just the second scoring option, but they needed like a player like Jimmy Butler. But in the grand scheme of things, with what they gave up, I doubt Jimmy Butler was the best option, considering like what all could have been gotten, in my opinion, for some other players or other role players that would have done better, in my opinion.
And so with the Warriors wanting a superstar, is there anybody that like pops into my mind of like, hey, Golden State, you should have went out and got him?
Well, again, I've been hearing reports because I have the draft special on right now too. And so I've been hearing that KD didn't want to get traded. And from what it sounds like, the Warriors did him a solid again. Nice of them, considering, Luka Doncic got traded in the middle of the night without being asked his, blessing in a sense. And so that just kind of goes to show, like, really no one is safe. Golden State, in my opinion, if Brandon Ingram was available, they could have gone after him. That'd have been another really good scoring in my opinion. You look at the Knicks, I'm sure that they would be willing to take on maybe some of the players that the Warriors are offering. Like Kuminga, for example, is probably a good trade piece to get like a good adequate player. And it doesn't look like he's available. If De'Aaron Fox was available, maybe that's a player that they should have gone after. I guess I just look at everything, post trade happening, and you look at some of the players that were available and assets given up. And I think Golden State could have probably put a package together for them. But again, I think Golden State for the last several years, they do this, which is they hold on to players a little too long because of, loyalty, which is great. But you look at them now and they just seem like that they're still trying to carry the Warriors magic that they've had for years. And right now, outside of Steph, they kind of need to blow everything up.
Dude, Jason, over under how many days before Draymond takes a swing at Jimmy?
I give it about 30.
30? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's going to be rumblings that they've already had a spat because, again, Jimmy does not like authority figures, which and he stated this for several years that he's not an authoritative kind of guy. And Draymond Green is all about control, and he's all about, being in line. And, ask Jordan Poole about that, because Draymond Green's probably the reason why that Jordan Poole's no longer on the team, because he swung at him. So, yeah, I think maybe within a month we're going to hear that there's reports that there's butting heads between Draymond and Jimmy. So,
well, to be fair, Jimmy does wait a little bit for the honeymoon phase to, go over. So I might even take the over on this.
Yeah, I guess I need to know what the line is set at first off.
Yeah, we'll take the over at 30 and a half days.
There you go.
I feel like that's good. We're continuing to break news. I continue refreshing my browser minutes and minutes and minutes on end. There's something going on right now because, the Atlanta Hawks sent DeAndre Hunter to the Cleveland Cavaliers. And then while Carson was on, we shared that the Clippers traded Terrence Mann and Bones Highland to Atlanta for Bogdanovich and those 3 second-round picks they acquired for DeAndre Hunter. And now the Hawks are trading Cody Zeller and a second-round pick to the Rockets. Unknown what they got back. Cody, are they... What's Atlanta do? Are they trying to complete a bigger deal here in the next 5 minutes?
I think they're selling everybody. I think I would not be surprised. And I think we have 5 minutes left until the trade deadline's over. Don't be surprised if Trae Young winds up on a new team, because look, there's DeAndre Hunter was a good player. He's a significant upgrade to LeVert, which Cleveland just got. That was a direct in conference, in division trade. That was pretty huge. Atlanta is really recouping assets right now and draft picks. I would not be surprised if Trae Young ends up on a team by the end of this, just because it's kind of feeling like it's heading that direction, or, whatever assets that they have. Because I believe it was Murray. He's out for the season with a torn Achilles. So you really don't have anything to play for. If anything, you're probably just waiting until the season's over. And Atlanta right now is sitting on the 9th seed. I don't know if they're going to do anything that makes them that much better, but it looks like that, Atlanta could be in a fire sale situation to just restart. I mean, they have no other choice.
Jason's need to trade Young, bring the Luka connection full circle. Who knows? Maybe something crazy happens and the Los Angeles Lakers acquire Trae Young, pair Trae Young, Luka Doncic, and LeBron James together in LA, or even crazier, the Dallas Mavericks go out and Kyrie's not happy, so do a Kyrie for Trae Young swap. Who knows? Maybe we'll get super crazy. You mentioned we're about 3 minutes away from the NBA trade deadline. Now, if you guys know anything, the NBA trade deadline may end at 3 p.m., but doesn't mean that all the deals are done when it comes in. So we are minutes away from the NBA trade deadline. Guys, Atlanta's doing something. I don't know what, but I continue to refresh all my browsers as we continue to go. 2 big deals just happened. 2 big deals, according to Shams. One of them were the Los Angeles Clippers trading away Kevin Porter to the Milwaukee Bucks for Beauchamp. But here's the big one. Marcus Smart is on the move again. Memphis trades Marcus Smart and a 2025 first-round pick, which will obviously be later because of how well they're playing this year, to Washington in a multi-team trade that will send 2 second-round picks to Memphis. And this gives the Grizzlies roster flexibility with this move. So we just had 2 big deals. We'll get them on the bottom ticker. We're bringing Cody back in from Drew Code Sports Talk. Cody, you step away for a very quick whiz break, and all of a sudden Marcus Smart gets traded to the Washington Wizards, and this apparently gives the Grizzlies roster flexibility. Do you think they're about to land a bigger star here in the next couple minutes?
I mean, from what it looks like, maybe they can really use some additional guard rotation. So maybe they're poised. I mean, maybe Bradley Beal now can get traded from Phoenix, especially if the Grizzlies can pull together a good enough package and open up a roster spot and get some salary cap. I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen, but I mean, Grizzlies right now, if they want to stay competitive in the West, which again, they were one of the top seeds just a few short seasons ago, they really need to do something to do so. Marcus Smart was one of their defensive pillars, and I think just the honeymoon of adding him, I think just last offseason is over. And I mean, maybe this is opening up a roster spot to absorb a couple of contracts, but I think maybe Grizzlies at the finish line might add maybe a notable pick or player that could help, push them in the remaining part of the season. But it's very curious to see why they got rid of Smart, who has been a pretty good role player for them since they acquired him in the offseason a few years ago, like I said.
Dude, it's dude, this is pretty crazy. Like, dude, I don't even remember like the last deadline that was this busy.
Yeah. Well, I think too what made it fun was the names that got, thrown around there. Especially I think the whole Luka and AD trade, and I don't want to keep, harping on it because again, I'm a Lakers fan, that's well known, and we're still talking about it almost a full week later. It's just I think that was how big of a shift it was is what's crazy. And I was on with Jason, I think the day after it had happened, and I let him know, deadline is just gone and passed. And I had let Jason know, like, this is something that we have never seen with these 2 megastars, especially in Luka as young as he was. And, I hear a lot of people saying it's putting superstars on notice, but I actually think like some GMs and owners may hold their stars a little closer just because like, you don't just get rid of Luka, like sure, like Zion Williamson maybe is a player that's on the market if, he doesn't turn his career around. But Luka is a different player, like no doubt. And especially all the weird reports about his conditioning and then him with the Lakers, there is no conditioning problem. There is no weight problem. It just seems like the Mavericks conjured up a story and just decided to trade based on that. And if anything, I think teams are going to be more weary about making sure they take care of their superstars. So that way, if they did trade them, they get more back from them than what the Mavs did.
dude. And the Mavs, yeah, I do want to hear your thoughts because I know I got a little bit from Three from Deep when you were on the show for Jason
Mhm.
back on Monday, and the Lakers making moves with Mark Williams, and I will be hearing some of your news. Breaking news that the Indiana Pacers are trading James Wiseman, who's been on the move quite a few times. He and some money is going to Toronto.
Wow, that's a good one.
So that's coming in from ESPN and Shams, and continue to frequently refresh my browser. And this is why we do live, so you guys can comment and move the conversation in your direction. Jason getting the head start in terms of you're going to ask him questions. Well, he's asking us a question. What's the biggest trade that did not happen as of now? Which is honestly like pretty crazy to think about because every deadline we have, I'm just like, wow, I expected this guy to be on the move, and they weren't traded, they weren't dealt. But here, like we've had almost any and every move possible sent in. I've heard Paul George potentially. Surprised he hasn't been on the move. I didn't know if the Charlotte Hornets were going to do anything major. Obviously, they sent Mark Williams to the Los Angeles Lakers. Surprised that Memphis, other than trading Marcus Smart, if that's all that they're doing, I'm kind of surprised nothing's happened there. But dude, I think Zion Williamson is the biggest one that I have yet to see or hear of.
I think that's a good one. Another one would be Julius Randle from the Timberwolves. I was thinking maybe he would have gotten dealt. And I'm going to be honest, and not to cast aspersions on the Knicks, but I would have thought that they would have made a deadline deal to bolster a little bit of bench rotation. But maybe they're pretty comfortable with what they're running with. And Jason will have to tell me that, and maybe I'll get his take on it later on in the day. But another player that I would have thought would have gotten traded, or at least the trade that I thought would have gone down, and there's reports of it flying around yesterday, which was KD would have gone to Golden State, Butler would have gone to the Suns, and Beal would have gone to Miami. I thought that would have been a massive mega deal had KD kind of given his blessing on that. And I think that's probably the biggest trade. I'm surprised that didn't go through. And if I'm being honest, I'm surprised KD wants to stay with the Suns with all the rumors that, he's kind of being shopped around, and KD himself has made it known that he didn't want to leave the Suns. So I'm surprised that he actually still said, no, I'll stay here regardless, because I could very easily see the Knicks with some picks and players probably could have gotten KD from the Suns if they would have been willing to pull the trigger on it. Now, granted, you had to get rid of some younger players, but I think the Knicks could have been in play for KD if they were willing to make a deal.
I feel like KD also doesn't entirely move the needle. For a lot of these teams like the Knicks, I like their makeup of Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns and, Mikal Bridges. Even though Mikal was, a little weird with his shot. I mean, I feel like they shouldn't have went out and traded Dante DiVincenzo. But it's working. They could have another center. Mitchell Robinson's obviously out right now, and hopefully he can return. He's been cleared for contact activities as of about 3 days ago. Jason's weird with this. Surprised Joel Embiid didn't get moved. Obviously, his health's on the decline, but I don't see the 76ers giving Embiid up.
I think had he continued to perform poorly, probably. But I think what we're surprised in, even the few games that he's played, I think he's played in 30 games, I think in total 35, I think is the number. It's been pretty productive for the most part. So it's not like it's been a total waste, but again, you have to see if he has another injury that puts him out for several weeks. They just got Paul George, and ironically enough, the Sixers are kind of like a middle of the pack kind of team. They're not terrible, but they're not the best in the East any longer. So they're kind of in purgatory. They're really, ironically enough, that there's a team that should have made a deal to get better or worse. Should have been the Sixers. Embiid, though, maybe next year if he has disdain for Philadelphia, possibly. But I don't think Joel Embiid has played himself in a position to be traded at least this season.
Yeah, I wouldn't foresee Joel Embiid getting traded at the deadline. Maybe that's even like an off-season move. Because especially like if we saw the reaction that Mavs fans had with Luka Doncic, I feel like Philadelphia fans would have if Joel Embiid was all of a sudden during the season like, hey, we're trading him for a pack of peanuts and a crutch that Joel Embiid could have used if he was still there.
Sure.
But dude, that's as of now, we're not hearing any big moves coming in at the deadline. It's about 3:07 Eastern time, so we're about 7 minutes removed from the deadline passing. And if you guys are very familiar with NBA trades and stuff, you will know that sometimes it takes about 15, 20 minutes to get everything processed. And so we have a lot of trades to talk about as long as Cody's willing to stay. But I did want to throw this one out because this was a head scratcher to me. When you're talking about a team contending and talking about a player who meant a lot to the organization, Chris Middleton and his name being thrown out into the trade market really surprised me. That was actually one of the names that intrigued me as a Miami Heat fan. But instead, after Middleton helped deliver a championship to the Milwaukee Bucks, in addition to Giannis Antetokounmpo, Chris Middleton was just shipped off to Washington, basically in exchange for Kyle Kuzma. Cody, as much as we're talking about Luka being disrespected in terms of his departure from Dallas, I feel like this was a slap in the face to Chris Middleton saying, hey, you delivered us a championship. Kyle Kuzma, I don't believe moves the needle as much as it does for the Bucks. And we're going to ship you off to literally the worst team in the NBA in the Washington Wizards. Did this rub you the wrong way if you're Chris Middleton?
No, if anything, I mean, I think what'll probably end up happening is Middleton's getting paid a ton of money. I think he's on the last year of his deal. He'll be paired with Malcolm Brogdon, and again, former teammates from the Bucks from earlier on in their career. So I think honestly, it's a business move at the end of the day. Like I hate to say, don't take it personally if you're Middleton, just because like you haven't been on the court very often. When you are on the court, it's sparingly, and you're kind of getting up there in age. Kyle Kuzma, again, former Laker, he is young enough to where he does kind of spread the floor a little bit. He has length. He can shoot. As good as Middleton, no, but I think what Kyle Kuzma does that Middleton can't, which is he can take it to the hole if he gets drived off the arc, and Middleton just doesn't have that kind of athleticism. Really, he's never had that. But I think this does kind of open up a little bit of a dynamic for the Bucks that they did need. They needed to get younger in a particular position, considering they have Lillard, who's older, who's running the point, and you have obviously Antetokounmpo, who isn't old, but like he could use some help, especially when it comes to scoring threats. But for the Wizards, I mean, we're thinking that Middleton is going to spend the rest of his year or remaining time in the Wizards. They could easily buy him out, and then he go into free agency, because another half of this is not only the trade deadline, but there's the buyout window. And that's where like a lot of teams will make a lot of effort. So like, for example, Miami, actually, if they're still looking to add to the team, whoever gets bought out after this trade deadline, those are players to watch for, because sometimes those buyout players are what catapult a team or make them a playoff team or whatever the case may be. So Middleton, yeah, today he's on the Wizards, but come the buyout window, he may be somebody that gets added to a team for veteran presence, shooting. He may stay on the Wizards because no one wants to play on there right now because they're pretty bad. But, I don't think it's kind of like a Milwaukee slap in the face. It's a business move. Like, he's older. He's not really adding anything. And yeah, you won a championship. He'll probably get his jersey retired, but it's a move that ultimately had to get made.
Yeah. And you brought up, potential buyouts. Marcus Smart also making his way to Washington. Could Marcus Smart be a candidate for a buyout and join like a dude, he could still add value to literally like any of these teams at the top.
again, a team that comes to mind that I think he'd fit really well is Miami. A tenacious guy, comes off the bench. I think he'd fit in really well. I do think, though, obviously, I don't want to keep bringing up Miami. I think because they lost Jimmy Butler, they're the first thing on my mind. They still need a big, but, having Marcus Smart there being somebody that's defensive tenaciousness, I think he would vibe really well with Spoelstra's offense. I think that would be a player if he is available in the buyout, because it depends if the Wizards are going to keep him, because the Wizards just added him as well with Middleton, or they could just keep everyone, because a lot of these guys are on expiring contracts. And once they, are expired off of their book, so to speak, then, they don't have them on their salary cap. So who knows? We'll see.
Dude, and I would see Marcus Smart there. Like, and I still feel like you need somebody at the point. You need another big. I feel like Miami, in terms of wings right now, is solid. I wouldn't pass down a Chris Middleton, especially if he was bought out of his contract. I would love Miami to kick the tires there. But man, also that Chris Middleton deal, it would have been very, very enticing if Bobby Portis was included in that, because that's what I was hearing. And I was like, that would be awesome. You replace Butler with Chris Middleton, you get Bobby Portis as a big, and then you got something you're cooking with. But again, Jimmy Butler ruined it for all of us.
I think, I mean, here's what's the bad takeaway is Jimmy Butler probably could have gotten traded weeks ago had he just, probably come in there, demand a trade like what a superstar would do, play it out, and then let him facilitate that. Now, I will say Pat Riley, though, old school, probably also messed it up, if we're being, compassionate for Jimmy a little bit, which is, Pat Riley was like, no, I'm not trading you. Like, sorry, deal with it, and that probably did not help anybody's cause, because as what we just said earlier, Jimmy is somebody that runs against authority. And as soon as you tell him no, and not a real valid reason as to why, Pat Riley probably just said, no, because I said so, I'm not trading you. And Jimmy's like, okay, bet. And then just became really contentious. So I think what's bad is the Heat put them in this predicament, and Jimmy didn't help facilitate it. And if it wasn't for Jimmy, like, acting the way he did, he probably would have been in a better situation, and Miami would have players that might contribute today. But again, I mean, you can only move forward from here, and we'll see what Miami looks like post trade deadline now. And again, the buyout market, who knows? I mean, this team is right now, I think, the 6th seed. So we'll see if they maintain it, lose it. Definitely, maybe, or now without this distraction, can probably move forward. And who knows? Maybe we haven't seen the best of the Heat quite yet.
And I feel like that's the big thing too, is, there's a video of a fan breaking the news mid-game last night to Tyler Hero, Kevin Love, and Jaime Jaquez. And they had 3 very different reactions. One of them, Kevin Love, was probably annoyed. Kevin Love probably didn't want to hear that during the deal. I think he's still kind of close to Jimmy Butler off the court. Jaime Jaquez was shocked. He was like, how do I react? This hasn't happened before. You could tell he was like very new. He's a second-year pro. And Tyler Hero was grinning ear to ear, because, I mean, it's his team now. When Tyler Hero was involved with trade rumors for years and years and years, and now you have him, like, during the midst of this Jimmy Butler drama, Tyler Hero is a first-time All-Star. Tyler Hero's leading the team in scoring. Tyler Hero's doing everything he can to, propel this team as high as a 6th seed in the Eastern Conference. And Tyler Hero's basically looking like, okay, the distraction's gone. And I mean, post game, he was asked not necessarily about the trade, but asked about the future of this team. And Tyler Hero's like, well, everyone here all wants to be here. Right. And I was like, that is a direct shot to Jimmy Butler leaving Miami in the way that he did. And who knows, Andrew Wiggins, how he'll fit with this team in Miami. But, dude, especially looking at the buyout market, I get really excited for what Miami could add.
I think Miami is going to look very similar to what they looked like before they had Jimmy, which is they're a fundamental team. They can score. They just don't have a number one option. Tyler Hero, now that I think he's in his 6th or 7th season right now, You'd have to fact check me on that, Mike. But, Tyler Hero's been with this organization from before Jimmy and has been in Spo's offense and in this organization. So, yeah, of course, he's, a Heat through and through. And now this is kind of formally his team directly. It's just now I think like Andrew Wiggins is going to be a very good role player. He's not going to be asked to win them games. You have Bam Adebayo. Hopefully he propels his game now that we're in the latter part of the season. Jaime Jaquez, as you said, being a good second year, and he had a very good rookie season. So this team could look very productive, and maybe they float between the 5th seed at their like highest level to reach and maybe a 7th seed. Like they're probably within that range, but they're never a threat to like get to the finals again unless they have a perennial like all pro, all-star, or excuse me, not all pro, all NBA, type of player. Like, Jimmy Butler could be in that realm, but is Tyler Hero ready to take that throne? You know what I mean? Or is Tyler Hero going to be like the Devin Booker of the Miami Heat, which is he scores a lot of points, but he's just not good enough on his own to get the team to be successful,
And that's a good point, because Miami has been middle of the pack for several years. And, an average team got propelled to the NBA finals because of Jimmy Butler, which I hope at the end of the day, like as much drama as Jimmy Butler brought to this Miami Heat team, I hope that one day we as Heat fans can look back and be like, you know what? Those were some good years. Jimmy Butler, really, really elevated this Miami Heat team. And while he didn't get a ring with the Miami Heat, he was able to do really good stuff. Okay. Yeah. He's been absolutely incredible. But Cody, I know you're a busy man right here. I want to ask you, when it comes to these trades, is there one that stands out to you? Because I know you talked Luka Doncic to the Lakers. I know you talked Mavericks getting Anthony Davis. The Lakers also traded away Dalton Connect in a deal for Mark Williams with your squad. Do you have any distinct thoughts on that yet?
So I think this is also too what makes it tough about NBA is obviously in my market, I'm not going to see hardly any Charlotte Hornet games just because I'm all the way out here in the West Coast. It's either the Clippers, Lakers, or Warriors primarily, and I don't hardly know anybody on the Hornets other than is it Brad Miller or Bradley?
Brandon Miller.
LaMelo Ball, of course, everyone knows him. And that's pretty much it. Those are really the only 2 players I know. So when I saw, Mark Williams getting traded, I went, who? And then all I saw was Dalton Connect, which my jaw hit the ground because I really liked Dalton Connect. I thought he was a very good pickup for us, and he played so well as a rookie. And then, of course, I've been hearing a lot of the analysts kind of talk about Mark Williams and how he is. And, I think for players that are on teams that aren't good, they're not playing at their 100% potential. They're playing at whatever level that they feel like is necessary to get through. And there's some people that are saying like he's barely at 60% of his overall potential. And he's been in the NBA for about 3 seasons. He's a rim presence. He's a rebounder, which is great because we need that. And then you find out he's only 6 months older, I think he's 6 months older than Dalton Connect. And now he can be paired with Luka at a very young age. And now we have a pretty good 1-2 tandem. And as long as Mark Williams' potential just continues to rise as they expect, and he learns within the system and all that other stuff, we could have a really good 1-2 combo with Luka and Mark Williams. And we have LeBron to kind of like mentor a lot of people within that organization. So I'm kind of coming around to like, okay, it's a little bit more exciting, but I need to see it put together. And I think Luka is going to be on the court. I think Saturday is his first game back. It'll be televised on ESPN. I think it's against the Pacers, if I'm not mistaken. So that'll be really exciting. So I'm really curious to see what this team looks like with all these new moving parts. And also, too, like how is JJ Redick going to facilitate and coach it? Because I really need to see that, because we're kind of on the borderline with not a rebuild, but we're building around Luka with LeBron still here, and we're still trying to be competitive for a championship. So what does that look like when you run all that at the same time? So that's what my initial thoughts were. And I'm very curious to see how it all plays out. I think it'll officially start on Saturday, so we'll see.
Yeah, and that's a really great point. The Lakers at 29-19. They're the 5th seed currently out in the West. It's a lot closer between Houston, Denver, and LA as opposed to the top where it's Memphis and then OKC above the rest. Lakers are 8-2 in their last 10 games, so win 8 of their last 10. Obviously losing their leading scorer in Anthony Davis, but they still have LeBron. I don't think they'll miss Anthony Davis offensively, at least with Luka Doncic there. But that is true because you give up, Dalton Connect, which could have been a future piece, but you have Austin Reeves, who can easily supplement that. You have Dorian Finney-Smith, who can help out a little bit defensively. Mark Williams is a big man, replacing what Anthony Davis left, but not entirely. And then you get a generational talent with Luka Doncic. So,
and we have Vanderbilt still, who is a really good perimeter defender. He was really pivotal on shutting down Steph when they played. He was really pivotal about going after their number one guy, really putting length on them, which really kind of disrupts a lot of the rhythm. So, did we lose some scoring? Yes. And like I was mentioning, even on Jason's show, the Lakers immediately probably aren't a big threat. The Mavericks are. In my opinion, the Mavericks are probably like going to be in the finals representing the West, if I'm being honest, just because you add AD, you still have Kyrie, you have Clay still, like that's big. But I think the Lakers with this season, next season, could be a scary team to think about, especially when you have free agents that are attracted now to what's going on in LA. A huge thing to really think about.
Yeah, a very huge thing to think about. Managing multiple things at once. There's more details on this Marcus Smart trade. Marvin Bagley is going to be going to Memphis.
Wow, that's pretty big.
So
that's pretty big.
Former Duke guy, Duke Biggs on the move. Cody got one himself with Mark Williams.
Well, and here's the thing with Bagley is this is like some competitive basketball that he hasn't played in some years because he's kind of been like a journeyman, so to speak, with trading around. And now you get him on Memphis, who really could use a big that rebounds and shoots. That's pretty big for Memphis, like what we were talking about earlier when they traded Smart. Like we were wondering, what are they going to get back? The fact that, a player like Bagley is involved in that, it's very, very interesting. I'm very curious to see how they all kind of form now.
Yeah, so that's a move to where Memphis thought Marvin Bagley could be a better contributor than Marcus Smart. I thought they were about to make some moves in terms of maybe bringing in somebody huge. Obviously, they didn't even have a chance in the Jimmy Butler sweepstakes for whatever that is worth. But some huge deals on the NBA trade deadline. This has been a live special. I'm going to stay on for a few minutes because I got a theory I want to bring out to you guys. But Cody, you're going to have Jason on your show for Drew Code Sports Talk. Dude, that is exciting. What can people expect over on your channel?
So for tonight's episode, we are going to still be reviewing a lot of the NBA trade stuff, very similar to like what we're doing, but I'm going to get his particular take because as everyone knows, he has his show on 3 times a week. So he's given a lot of NBA content. So I really need to hear his perspective on a lot of things. I'm really curious to see how he feels about his Knicks not really being buyers or sellers at the deadline. I'm curious about that. And of course, I want people to tune in because Jason is more than just the NBA guy. There's a lot more to this guy than I'm going to question him about, and in a fun way. And so we're going to get to know Jason as well. So I hope everyone tunes in and just be on the lookout for Instagram. We'll probably post on there, and I'm super excited to have Jason on. So,
hey, dude, I appreciate you coming on. I'm excited to listen to the 3 from Deep episode where you got to be his first guest. I'm a little jealous, by the way. But excited to see your episode. I'm going to go in. I'm already subscribed to Drew Code Sports Talk, and if you guys aren't, you will want to. But Cody, appreciate you. Enjoy Luka.
Thank you, brother.
But Cody, appreciate you, my friend. It's been awesome. But guys, we have a little bit more to talk about because we've covered a lot today on this NBA trade deadline live special. Appreciate you guys hanging in with us over the last few days. Haven't had a chance to do any shows We'll hopefully get Dad and the boys coming back soon. We'll get Out Pocket on a regular schedule, but didn't want to miss this. We'll try to do something for Super Bowl as well, but wanted to cover just a couple things here. But when we come back from the break, we're going to talk about a Duke player on the move and why one of these trades might have a outright winner when we come back on Out Pocket. Hey there, everyone. Michael Davis, Boom Broadcasting. I wanted to take this quick moment to say thank you for watching Boom Broadcasting. Your support is much appreciated and it's much needed. If you are a first-time watcher, please hit that subscribe button, like, and share this. That way we can get this out to everyone and be a great source for entertainment and enjoyment. Thank you so much. Well, guys, appreciate you tuning in to a live NBA trade deadline special at a special start time of 2 p.m. We wanted to cover the first hour of the NBA trade deadline, and now we're in the back half to where we're just refreshing our browsers, making sure we're catching all the small details that always come out after the NBA trade deadline comes to fruition. Some of the updates on the bottom scroll right here. Some of the big trades: Luka Doncic and Mark Williams to the Lakers, Anthony Davis and Caleb Martin to the Dallas Mavericks. We haven't had a chance to touch on that yet. De'Aaron Fox to the Spurs in a deal that sent Zach LaVine to the Sacramento Kings. Jimmy Butler, his drama is over. He's going to Golden State as Andrew Wiggins comes to Miami and part of the deal. We'll talk about Brandon Ingram here. Kyle Kuzma is a Milwaukee Buck as Chris Middleton is sent off to the league's worst Washington Wizards. Cody just being on from Drew Code Sports Talk, talking about Dalton Connect to the Charlotte Hornets and Nurkic also going to Charlotte to replace Mark Williams. DeAndre Hunter, Carson Williams, a Cavs fan, joined us at the beginning of the show to talk about DeAndre Hunter coming to the Cleveland Cavaliers to join forces with Evan Mobley, Jarrett Allen, Darius Garland, and Donovan Mitchell. But I did want to touch on some of these moves that have happened throughout the week. And one of those that happened was Brandon Ingram, former Duke Blue Devil, going to the Toronto Raptors. Now, that move comes with quite a shock. If you've been following the Pelicans for the last few days, you would think that Zion Williamson would be the former Duke Blue Devil going from New Orleans to a new team, but instead it's Brandon Ingram. We haven't heard Zion Williamson being traded yet. He is still employed by the New Orleans Pelicans, but Brandon Ingram is going to the Toronto Raptors, and Ingram has had a interesting journey, of course. Brandon Ingram was obviously came into this league as a Los Angeles Laker, and he was then shipped off in that Anthony Davis trade to get the Lakers. Anthony Davis, Ingram went to the Pelicans. And now in the same week that Anthony Davis is traded away from the Lakers, Brandon Ingram is traded away from the New Orleans Pelicans. He's a one-time NBA All-Star, one-time Most Improved Player, both in 2020. He made some moves when he was at Duke, and people compared him to the next or a poor man's Kevin Durant just because of their frame, just because of how good Brandon Ingram was at scoring, but not as effortlessly as Kevin Durant. Brandon Ingram, his numbers dropped a little slightly, less points per game this year for the Pelicans, slight decreases in rebounds and assists per game, but he still averaged 25 and 5 this year, nearly 50% shooting, 35% from three. Brandon Ingram Brandon Ingram can contribute to the Toronto Raptors. I just want that to be understood. Brandon Ingram can still contribute, and he can contribute to the Toronto Raptors. Now, the Raptors are third worst team in the East right now, just above Charlotte, just above Washington, who also made moves in their own right. But Emmanuel Quickly on a good deal. This team still has RJ Barrett. They still have Scotty Barnes. They have Grady Dick and Jacoby Walter in terms of young players. This team just needs veterans, and they need to catch a break. They may get a really good draft pick this year, but imagine if they stay low enough in terms of this lottery and tank, they have a chance at Cooper Flagg, who could be another Duke basketball player and can help this team. Just understand Brandon Ingram and RJ Barrett might have found their old home, their new home. As Duke fans, I'd love to see a place where RJ Barrett, Brandon Ingram, and Cooper Flagg were to team up at one team and basically give us the Toronto Blue Devils. Now, guys, I have a take that may not be popular. Now, to make this matter, this will be our final segment of today's live stream, unless there is breaking news that comes in later after the trade deadline. But I haven't had a chance to talk about this. Now, obviously, Jason on 3 from Deep did a phenomenal job hosting Cody Johnson from Drew Code Sports Talk, who was on just a few moments ago, talking about the Luka Doncic and Anthony Davis trade in depth on Monday when I couldn't get a show to you guys. So I very, very, very much appreciate them doing so. We talked about Luka. Luka is obviously the biggest acquisition at the trade deadline. He is a 25-year-old. He is only going to get better. He joins the Lakers, one of the greatest franchises in NBA history. Whether you like them or hate them, Luka Doncic is a Laker for the time being, and he's pairing up with LeBron James and company. Obviously, Dallas fans are upset. Luka, a franchise corner piece, is gone. As they should be. That's your future. That's your franchise. And now, what happens in Dallas is Dallas acquires Caleb Martin in a deal with Philadelphia, but they also acquire Anthony Davis. And I have to ask you guys, what is Nico Harrison thinking? Sending Luka Doncic away for Anthony Davis. But there is a question on the screen that we have to answer. Now, we brought up a trade in the NFL a couple weeks ago, and I've seen all the comparisons to like trying to explain this Luka and AD trade in other terms for like football or baseball, or, you know, trying to explain it to women involving Taylor Swift. But I'm going to give you guys a deal that this might turn out to be. The Los Angeles Rams and the Detroit Lions made a deal to send Matthew Stafford to LA and Jared Goff and picks to the Detroit Lions. What that did was able to get Detroit Mel Fonwu, Jahmyr Gibbs, Sam Laporta. And that was what was happening for the Detroit Lions. Now, the LA Rams got a Super Bowl while Detroit set up their future and have yet to win a championship, but they are put in position to win it any year now. I'm telling you, this might be the fate of the Dallas Mavericks. The Lakers get their future. They get Luka Doncic. They don't have to worry about life after LeBron like every other franchise has had to leave. Jimmy Butler in Miami. Cleveland finally resurrected with Donovan Mitchell. But it's always been, once LeBron leaves, you got to rebuild. Now they don't have to worry about that because as soon as LeBron leaves, if Luka resigns, they got Luka. Well, now the Dallas Mavericks lose their corner piece. They lose their franchise. But look at what Dallas has right now in terms of players. The Dallas Mavericks, hear me out, did give up their future. Much like the LA Rams did by giving up Jared Goff and all those picks that ended up being Jahmyr Gibbs and Sam Laporta. But the Dallas Mavericks get a first-round pick and Anthony Davis and acquire Caleb Martin from Philadelphia. And you're looking at this Mavericks team, and their starting lineup is going to look like Kyrie Irving, if he doesn't think that there's a just cause of him sitting out for basketball. Klay Thompson, who's won rings with Golden State, can very much shoot and is a very good three-point shooter. Reminds me of Ray Allen late in his career. You got PJ Washington, who Cody mentioned, guys who play on really bad teams don't get meaningful minutes, probably don't even give their all. PJ Washington is an example of that, thriving in Dallas. You have Daniel Gafford right there for you, and you have Derek Lively, who is on the Dallas Mavericks, and you pair them with Anthony Davis, who plays a natural 4 instead of a 5 in Dallas, so he will be at his best. AD says he's always wanted to play with Kyrie Irving. AD almost played with Kyrie when he was potentially shipped to the Lakers, but instead was shipped to Dallas. All of a sudden, you have a team that went to the NBA Finals last year on the back of Luka Doncic, but you had Klay Thompson and you had Anthony Davis, who has already won a ring and played valuable minutes in that finals for the LA Lakers. And you have a team that could compete this year for a trip back to the NBA Finals. Look at the teams above Dallas right now. Dallas is an 8 seed. Okay, so they have to beat Minnesota, who's a 7 seed. Also had a really strong year last year, trying to figure out life after Karl Anthony Towns. You have the Clippers. Clippers are a joke. You can't rely on Kawhi Leonard. Can't rely on James Harden. You got the Lakers, who have LeBron and Luka. As long as they have LeBron and Luka, they will be a viable threat. You have the Denver Nuggets. As long as you have Nikola Jokic and they didn't trade away Michael Porter Jr. or Jamal Murray, they'll be a threat. You got Houston, a young team, but that's it, a young team who may not have that finals experience. You got Memphis, again, a young team. You got OKC, which is obviously the most talented team in the Western Conference, best record in the Western Conference, but again, a younger team. And you have veterans like Kyrie, who's won a chip with LeBron. You have a veteran like Anthony Davis, who's won a chip with LeBron. You have Klay Thompson, who's won a chip with Stephen Curry. You have Derek Lively. You have PJ Washington, younger guys who can contribute, Daniel Gafford. And you're looking at this team and you're like, well, man, if Dallas can just be honestly a 6 or a 7 seed, avoid Denver that first round, gain momentum by beating Houston, Memphis, or OKC in the first round, Dallas might have a chance to win a championship this year or next year and make Nico Harrison look like a genius. What did Nico say? Nico said, defense wins championships. Who's going to defend Nikola Jokic? Anthony Davis. Who's going to defend Chet Holmgren? Anthony Davis. It's not as crazy as you think. Yes, Nico should not have given up a superstar that wanted to stay before he even reached his prime. But if the Rams could win a Super Bowl and get everyone to forget about it, the Mavs, if they win an NBA championship, they can help people forget all about it. And if this is the one piece you needed to move forward and win that championship, why not make it? Yes, you pissed off your fan base. Yes, you pissed off Jason Kidd, but not going to lie, if you get to the NBA Finals and win it, everybody's going to forget about it, and they're going to make Nico Harrison look like a genius. Like everybody, including myself, questioned whether Kyrie Irving was the right move to come to Dallas, and it ended up being so. Maybe Anthony Davis is the guy to help the Mavericks win their first championship since Dirk Nowitzki. And there you have it, guys. The NBA trade deadline has come and gone. I want to thank you guys for watching. I want to thank Jason for 3 from Deep for watching and commenting. I want to thank Matt Cosgrove for being an I Told You So guy. I want to thank Drew Code Sports Talk for hopping on today. Cody from there. I want to thank Carson for hopping on as well. And I want to say get well soon to my mom and dad for, stuff going on. They will get better soon. I appreciate them letting me do this live stream. And guys, hopefully we'll do a Super Bowl show tomorrow, but be sure to stay tuned for other content coming from Boom Broadcasting. Guys, thank you so much. Thank you for your support. Hope you subscribe. Hope you enjoyed our content. But guys, we'll catch you back here on Outta Pocket with Michael Davis, but subscribe to Boom Broadcasting for our next show.
Well, that's it. I really hope you enjoyed it. We had a ball making it. Thank you very much.